Good evening, everybody. My name is Bruce Mazer. I'm a pediatric immunologist in Montreal, and I am very, very pleased to join you tonight for this 10 talk. I am especially grateful to the organizers of this amazing Health and Halacha conference, the first World Health and Halacha conference sponsored by Mizrahi, World Mizrahi Canada, the Nishmat Miriam Globach Center, and I am joining Yoatzot Halacha, Rabbanim, healthcare practitioners, and other physicians in providing information that is crucial during this time of pandemic and that is crucial for our general health and well-being. Tonight, my topic is, I am pregnant. Should I get a COVID vaccine? And what I'd like to do is provide information about the vaccine and its safety, about the side effects and the effectiveness, and help understand why it's important to receive the COVID vaccine if you are pregnant. In order to do that, let's talk a little bit about the COVID vaccine and how it is affecting individuals who are pregnant. This is a headline from a Canadian news agency from the past week, and it talks about the fact that Canadian obstetricians were calling on the federal government to prioritize release of COVID vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, you name it, for women who are pregnant. And the reason for this was because of numbers of pregnant women who were ending up in the ICU, leading the Society of Obstetrics and Gynecologists of Canada to call on the federal government to allow COVID vaccines to be given to pregnant women to be a priority. Just this past weekend, there was a tremendous increase in admissions to intensive care units, particularly in Toronto. Fully 1/3 of the beds of the Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto were occupied by pregnant women. And just yesterday, the province of Ontario moved pregnancy into the highest risk category and encouraged vaccination against SARS-CoV-2 in women who are pregnant. Now, is this a new phenomenon, or is this something that we're just seeing now? Well, this is data in Canada from the beginning of the pandemic last March until the beginning of 2021. And this is a survey of 4 provinces where 1,839 pregnant women with COVID, SARS-CoV-2 infection, COVID-19, are compared to 136,000 women in the same provinces, same age range of 18 to 45, but non-pregnant, COVID-positive females. And as you can see, in pregnant women, 8% are hospitalized compared to 1.5% in non-pregnant women. In pregnant women, almost 1.6% are admitted to the ICU, as opposed to less than 0.3%. In other words, 5 times more women are admitted to intensive care, almost 6 times more women are hospitalized in caused by SARS-CoV-2 infection, COVID-19. This is a tremendously disturbing statistic. When we look at the situation around the world, it is not any more comforting. This is a study that came out this past week that compared 18 different hospitals in Europe and in North America and looked at complications of pregnancy in women who were infected with SARS-CoV-2 compared to those who were not. And as you can see, there are tremendous increases in complications such as preeclampsia and eclampsia. Intensive care unit admissions or referrals to a hospital for oxygen treatment or severe infections requiring antibiotics. And even worse, complications in the baby, preterm birth, low birth weight. These are indices of complications in pregnancy, and you can see 1.5 to almost 3 times the complications in women who are pregnant who are infected with COVID-19 compared to others. Thus, infection of pregnant women is an ongoing, severe problem, and we need to come up with strategies that are able to mitigate it. And there's no question now why the American College of OBGYN, the Canadian Society of OBGYN, and the Israeli Society of OBGYN, and many European societies have suggested and in fact encouraged pregnant women to be vaccinated against COVID-19. In the next few slides, I am going to describe how the vaccine was made, how it works, why it's safe, and some new data on safety in pregnancy and effectiveness in pregnancy. So this is the culprit. This is the virus called SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it's important to understand how the virus looks in order to understand why the vaccines were made the way they were and why they work. So SARS-CoV-2 is an RNA virus. It has an RNA that codes for all the proteins that are a constituent of this virus. The protein that helps the virus invade us is called the spike protein. And it's all over the top of the virus. In fact, when you look under the microscope, electron microscope, it looks like a crown, which gives it its name, coronaviruses. And the spike protein has two parts, S1 and S2. And the middle of the S1 is called the receptor binding domain. And this binds to a protein on our cells called ACE2, which allows cells, particularly in the mucosa, to pull the virus inside, and the virus unwraps its particles and unwraps its RNA and gets to replicate in our bodies. And that is how it infects us, and that is how it causes so much damage. So it was determined that if you can block this spike protein and the receptor binding domain from attaching to the ACE2 receptor, you could stop the infection. And so the current viruses are all made, the current vaccines rather, are all made with parts of the RNA or DNA that code for the spike protein. In the Pfizer Moderna vaccines, it's RNA, mRNA, as you know, they're mRNA vaccines, encapsulated in a lipid nanoparticle. And all that's in there is an RNA for the spike or receptor binding domain protein, not the whole virus. You cannot get infected with the virus if you have the vaccine. The lipid particle comes to our cells, and because it's lipid, it fuses with our membranes. It enters the cell that's where it's injected, and the RNA is released and is translated, and our own bodies make COVID-19 spike protein, not the whole virus, only the spike protein. Our cells then secrete it or have it on its surface, and our immune system recognizes this as a foreign protein and comes in and makes antibodies. And hence, the vaccine causes extremely high levels of antibodies and excellent protection against the virus. Is it safe? Well, all vaccines give some side effects. Most of them are mild to moderate, and we'll talk about them in detail in a moment. Some are very rare, like the clotting disorders that you've heard about, Guillain-Barré syndrome, other neurological complications. But these are somewhere between 1 in a million, 1 in 250,000, and have been shown even now to be extremely rare. One of the common concerns is that, do the RNA vaccines insert into our genes so that we'll have long-lasting problems? Well, RNA from these vaccines can't go into our genes permanently. Our cells have enzymes that break down the mRNA, so you get one burst of spike protein, not a continuous production. And there's no viruses that are alive involved in any of these vaccines that can cause illness or cause mutations in our genes. That includes the AstraZeneca, the Johnson & Johnson, and especially the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. Does the vaccine go to reproductive tissue? Well, this is a slide that shows data on mRNA vaccines and where they go. And you can see the vast majority is at the muscle or injection site. 1,000 times less is found in your blood, and 2,000 times less went to the testes. And when they look at ovaries and similar studies, it's very similar. In other words, the vaccine is deposited into the muscle, in the lymph nodes near the muscle, but doesn't go anywhere else in the body in any significant amount, so it cannot leave long-lasting effects. Does it work? Well, these vaccines definitely can protect pregnant women. This is a slide that shows antibody levels. IgG, the antibody that protects our blood. IgA, the antibody that protects our lungs. And pregnant women, non-pregnant women, women who are breastfeeding have equal amounts of antibodies that are made when they get the vaccine. Doesn't matter if you're pregnant or not, the vaccine is effective, and it doesn't matter if it's Pfizer or Moderna, the vaccine works. Does it cause side effects? This is a study that just came out in the last week of April in New England Journal of Medicine to compare in a registry of 35,000 women who've received the vaccine who were pregnant, whether they had more or less side effects than other women. And you can see that the local side effects like pain, fatigue, headache, muscle aches, chills, fever, whether you're pregnant in dark blue or non-pregnant in light blue, there is no difference between Pfizer or Moderna, whether you're pregnant or not pregnant. In terms of the outcomes that are associated with complications of pregnancy, stillbirths, miscarriage, neonatal death, congenital anomalies, there was no greater number in those that were pregnant than in the general population. And in the 724 women who gave birth out of these 35,000 who had received the vaccine so far, this is preliminary, no neonatal deaths. And the incidence of other complications was no more than in what you would expect in the general population. And in fact, your taking the vaccine can protect your baby. This is a slide that shows that there is a transfer of antibodies from your blood, the blood of the pregnant woman, into the cord blood of the baby, or into the breast milk. And so the babies are protected as well. And so I think it's important to conclude that COVID-19 is a dangerous disease in pregnancy. Protection from RNA vaccines, mRNA vaccines is excellent. And at least the data to date shows that there's no more complications of COVID-19 vaccines in pregnancy than in the general population. COVID vaccine protects the mother and the baby. There's no evidence that COVID vaccines can cause any problems with fertility. And in fact, there may even be a risk of infertility in men if they catch COVID, but not from the vaccine. So I think that it's important that we conclude by saying that there has been major problems among infected pregnant women, and probably the best way to avoid this is for people to consider getting vaccinated. I'm happy to answer any questions that you send our way, and I wish you all a good conference, and take care and stay safe.